What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at this beautiful new 2024 Volkswagen ID.4 Pro. So if you guys are new to the channel, I am a huge EV enthusiast. I've owned two already, and the ID.4 was on my list when I went to buy my second EV here. But there were a couple major issues that kept me away from buying an ID.4, and I'm super interested to see if they fixed those problems. So stay tuned to the end of the video, and I'll be talking about whether or not I would consider the 2024 ID.4 going forward. So the ID.4 has been out for several years now, and they're finally giving it, I don't even want to call it a facelift because it's really not. There's not a lot of noticeable differences, at least not on the outside, but on the inside, there's a couple things that I want to take a look at that are extremely welcomed changes and necessary changes that they finally made. But additionally, they made a few performance tweaks and improvements, one of which is giving the higher trimmed models a larger battery pack. So this has an 82 kilowatt hour raw battery pack, 77 kilowatt hours of usable right off the bat. And this is going to help not only with your range, that goes up, but also the overall power and performance that they can put out of this battery. So you're going to see some slight horsepower improvements, some slight range improvements like I mentioned, but we'll cover it all in this video. So like I mentioned earlier, this is the Pro trim. So this is basically dead center. I think there are way too many trim levels here, but it goes standard, standard S, Pro, Pro S, and Pro S Plus. So there's quite a few models to choose from. And since this is kind of early on in the production cycle, there aren't that many options on this specific Pro, but it is all-wheel drive, so I wanted to take a look at that. It's going to have the improved horsepower, but it still has like cloth seats, no power tailgate. Most models that you all are going to look at a dealership that are in this kind of Pro range are going to have some of those nice options added on. But you still get a ton of great features on this specific trim level, and the price point, it's not too bad. This one stickers for around $50,000, but then you add on the tax incentive, you're right around that $43,000 mark or a little below that. So not bad at all for the features that you get. But let's just go ahead and start up front, talk about everything that we've got here on this Pro. We'll work our way all around the vehicle, and then when we get inside, I'll take a look at some of those really cool features I talked about that they finally fixed. Up front, first and foremost, you've got a full suite of LED headlights. Now here on the lower trim levels that don't have the LED light bar, you have this like gloss white accent piece that's going to be nice and reflective, but does not illuminate on its own. But on higher trim levels, as I've shown on previous years of the ID.4, you'll have an LED light bar that runs across the front here, even an illuminated Volkswagen badge on some. But just a normal LED headlight kit here, no fog lights. You don't really need a ton of air intake, but you've got a little bit down at the bottom, some ultrasonic sensors dotted around, just a plastic lip at the bottom. And overall, it's a pretty simple grille. I've always liked that about the ID.4. I think it's a really clean design, and I think the front grille is really nice. There's not a lot going on. It doesn't have to be over exaggerated to look sporty or cool. It's just simple and clean. And you have this beautiful pure gray color as well, which I really like. Now, something that hasn't changed here in 2024 is you still have just a traditional engine area. Now, of course, you don't have an engine per se, but you do still have all of your kind of electrical components, a little intake fan down at the bottom, wiper fluid, some coolant, things like that. Everything's traditionally accessible here in the front. You do not have a dedicated frunk here on the ID.4. But you do have a ton of great storage in the back, which we'll take a look at in just a sec. And like I said, this is the all-wheel drive model, so it's a dual motor, one in the front, one in the back, combined for 330 horsepower. And the all-wheel drive model is going to get you about 263 miles to the full charge. If you opt for the rear-wheel drive, that's going to give you 291 miles of range. Another thing that they did change here in 2024 is they gave you some updated wheel designs. So we've got these really nice 20-inch two-tone alloy wheels here. They're very EV-esque, right? They don't have a ton of openings. They're kind of aerodynamic in that way. So you just have a couple little pass-throughs there, but it's pretty closed off overall. A little bit of cladding around the wheel wells, some reflectors here. You've got your all-wheel drive Pro badging on the side. You've got body-colored side mirrors here. These are manual folding mirrors, integrated turn signals. They're heated, blind spot monitoring, all that kind of good stuff still. You have keyless access here on the door panels, and it has a proximity feature for auto locking and unlocking. You put your finger on there, it'll lock right up. No sunroof either on this, but on most higher trim models, you're going to see a panoramic roof. And then you do have black roof rails here as well. So here along the side of the vehicle, you get access to your little charge port here. You've got a little LED light in here. Obviously, you've got your J1772 port here, and this is DC fast charging capable. It has a standard plug that it comes with, and that can charge on 120 or 240. You know, if you're new to EVs, if you charge on 120, it's going to take like 20 hours to charge, maybe more. That's what you consider level 1 charging. charging. Now level 2 charging would be on 240 volt, and that'd be something like a dryer outlet or something like that. That will typically charge your car from 0 to 100 in about 7 or 8 hours. So you can do that easily overnight at home. Or if you do DC fast charging at a public DC fast charging station, the ID.4 here, hard to find exact numbers, but I think has a peak charging load of 175 kilowatts. Most public DC fast charging stations are going to be able to get you close to that. And I know Volkswagen is tied to Electrify America, so you can definitely use those fast chargers to charge your ID.4 here. But if we move around to the tailgate, you've got a spoiler here. You can keep stuff off of your windshield, but it does kind of stick out pretty far, so you do have a rear wiper as well. I mentioned that you don't have an LED light bar in the front, but you do actually have it here on the back. So you've got LED tail lights here with this LED light bar that acts as a brake light that runs all across the tailgate. It looks really good at night. I'm a big fan of this. You got your Volkswagen badge here. It's not illuminated, but on higher trim levels, this brake light will kind of integrate into the Volkswagen badge, so you'll have kind of a light up red brake light Volkswagen badge at night, which looks great. ID.4 badging here. Got a rear camera up underneath, and then just plastic cladding at the bottom. You do have a tow hitch down there, 2,700 pounds of towing capacity here on this ID.4. Ultrasonic sensors, like I mentioned, some reflectors as well. I did mention this earlier, but this ID.4 doesn't have as many options as another one in this segment might. So you don't have a power lift gate, but you do have a manual gate here. Normally you'd have the little button here, but you know, not on this model. And you can take a look at all of this cargo carrying space back here. So with the second row seats up, you get access to 30.3 cubic feet of cargo space. If you fold those second row seats down, 64.2 cubic feet. So that really helps make up the lack of frunk on this vehicle. But you've got some nice cargo features back here. So you've got this cargo blocks here, so you can kind of segment off the cargo area there. Volkswagen gives you that almost standard on most vehicles. You do have your charging cable back here, and this is similar to what Chevy does with their dual level charging cable. You've got your standard 110 volt plug here, which is just, you know, a traditional plug in the US. And then you also have your 240 here, and these can easily be swapped out into the base of this charging cable, depending on what you need. So great to kind of keep that in your car at all times, just in case, you know, you have an emergency and you need to plug in and trickle charge for a little bit just to get you to where you need to go. And then you do have your monster mats back here that have your ID.4 badging on them as well. And then up underneath here, you've got a nice deep tray. You can store stuff back here. You can remove this back piece here. You've got some LED lights back here, 12 volt outlet. You've got room for a cargo net for sure. You do have this built-in cargo cover here as well, but not a lot of other amenities just because this one is a little bit of a lower trim level. Tons of cargo space. You can fit so much back here. You can go ahead and close her up, hop inside. All right, so hopping into the updated interior here on the ID.4, several things jump out to me right away. First and foremost is the repositioning of the little shift column stock here. That's a big difference. The screen looks a little bit different here as well. This display over here is noticeably larger and has a fully, updated interface. We'll talk about the pros and cons of that here in just a sec. Those are the main things that jump right out as far as the redesign goes here for 2024. Everything else looks pretty similar. Again, I mentioned lower trim level here, so the seating surfaces are going to be not the highest quality, but we'll talk about that in just a sec. The material and the build quality of the ID.4 has always been one of its top selling points. Very well made, very sturdy, very solid, nice materials. Even on the lower trim levels here, no exception. You got some soft touch rubber up top. This one has like a cloth material on the door panels, same thing that's over on the seating surfaces, but here on the door panels. It's a nice contrast point in this kind of stone color. For God only knows what reason, you have gloss black plastic on the armrest and the part that you put your hand on to open the door. I almost get so tired of talking about it. It just makes no sense to me. But you do have the same little window mechanism that you've had on previous generations. So if you don't like that, you're not gonna like this either. But this is a 4-door and you only have 2 window controls. The way you control the rear windows is by pressing and holding for a second on the word rear. Then you can drop the second row windows. So only 2 toggles here. Mirror controls here. You've got your little lighting pad that we're used to seeing on Volkswagen models right here. This also has your defoggers on it. A vent here. Then you have more of this kind of rubber, leatherette material with accent stitching that runs across the front of the dash here. You have a little bit of a satin plasticky accent here, and then just basically black plastic all the way down from there, but it does feel nice. Center armrest has some more gray leatherette with some accent stitching as well. What does CNCL mean? CNCL. Oh, an abridged owner's manual. I like that. CNCL. Maybe the abridged owner's manual is a little too abridged, if you will. We're going to go to the ultimate unabridged owner's manual. Volkswagen CNCL Button. It's great that nothing comes up at all. It's very helpful. Wow. Hey, I figured it out. It's very obvious. Cancel. CNCL. I couldn't figure it out. Just take the vowels out. How dumb am I? It's cancel. So you used to have the little on-off button here, and it was just like an I/O type thing, which is a little bit confusing for people that might not know what I/O means. They simplified it. Maybe not for, you know, Mr. Smart Guy me, but I think for most people, they're going to see CNCL and think cancel. I don't know why I couldn't figure it out, but I feel like most people are going to figure it out. So this is going to cancel your cruise control. You can also just step on the brake and it will cancel your cruise control while going. But that's what CNCL is. I'm stupid. You guys are smart. Volkswagen's smart. They know what to do. So you've got your cancel button here, and then down here you have different cruise control modes. So there's 3 different ones you can choose from, and you cycle through them by pushing this button. So you push one, so you get travel assist, which is your semi-autonomous driving assistant. Then secondly, you'll have adaptive cruise control, and then you'll have just your regular cruise control, which will not have your stop and go, you know, keeping you away from traffic in front of you feature to it. That's how you do that. Switch between that, and we'll cover it a little bit more in the test drive portion. Then you have all of your adaptive cruise control settings here. This view button will let you change basically between 2 different layouts. There's very few things that you can actually change on this little driver information display right past the steering wheel. You can basically get where you can see your adaptive cruise system with your distance indicator and things, or you can see it in like a graphic format. Everything else on here stays exactly how it is. You've got your range, you've got your battery remaining, you've got your speed, you've got what, if you're in drive, neutral, reverse, park, or braking mode. You can see which of your passengers aren't buckled in, things like that. And like I mentioned, the stalk to switch gears or, you know, change your driving mode used to be up here, but they've moved it down to this independent stalk here. So it's twist for drive, up one more for braking mode, down middle for neutral, down for reverse, and then park is a push button. And you've got a light and wiper combo stock here. I really like this combo stock. I think some other manufacturers should take this into account. Hyundai. And then you do have a nice leatherette wrapped steering wheel with accent stitching, Volkswagen badge in the center, textured bit, a little bit of an accent there. Looks really nice, feels good too. You got some vents here underneath. We're gonna come back to the infotainment system here in just a sec, but you do have my favorite piano black plastic all over this center console piece, which is great because you are gonna be touching it and it's gonna be brushing up against stuff, and it's gonna be absolutely covered in dust, dirt, and grime. But here it is. You got 2 cup holders that are static cup holders. In previous gens, you could move the cup holders around, but not anymore. You do have a Qi-enabled wireless charging pad here, 2 USB-C ports, a nice deep center armrest here, little light inside there, standard glove box over here. You've got an auto-dimming rearview mirror up here, these little LED dome lights, and these are really neat. They have some cool kind of built-in hidden features. I've got a full video talking about the hidden features inside the 2023 Volkswagen ID.4, but I will be making a hidden features for 2024 as well, so hit subscribe so you don't miss that. I'll have it linked down below if it's live. Black headliner up top, and then as far as the seating surfaces, like I mentioned, these are a 2-tone seat, stone gray cloth seat with leather trim. Got your little ID word mark on here as well. Some accent stitching on the sides. They feel really comfortable, honestly, for being cloth seats. Can't really speak to the durability of the cloth over the leather. Comfortable nonetheless. They are both manually adjustable seats though, just something to keep in mind. But let's get back to this infotainment system because like I mentioned outside, this was one of the main things that kept me from purchasing an ID.4. This infotainment system used to be so laggy and glitchy, and it just didn't fit with everything else that the ID.4 had going for it. Build quality and comfort and convenience. It was just the clunkiest aspect of it, which should be the opposite, right? This should be the most refined thing on the ID.4. Everything else should be not secondary, but on a lower tier because this is the brains of the operation and you need this to work really well. So here in 2024, they've increased the size to 12.9 inches and given you a faster, supposedly faster, more efficient, better working system. But one of the things that they did in doing that is they changed the graphic style of it, and I hate it. I wish that they would have just left the last gen style of the ID.4 and some of the newer, you know, Volkswagen vehicles and just made it more snappy and responsive. Maybe they couldn't do that. Maybe there was some technical reason why that specific UI design just didn't work with its current system. This new system is just not my favorite, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't work better. And from what I'm gathering, my short time of using it, I haven't had many like phantom button presses, which was an issue on the previous generation. Haven't had a lot of of lag in switching between apps. The fluidity of the map is good, not great, but good. You've got all the same functionality, so you got on-screen climate controls, radio, Bluetooth, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, on-screen navigation, all your assist systems. You can switch your drive mode between Eco, Comfort, Sport, Traction, and Custom. You've got ambient lighting, sound control, all that kind of stuff. Everything is still there. And then of course you can access your rear view camera just by pivoting down to rear camera. You also have park assist, which we'll take a look at in the test drive portion. And then you've got all of your sensors that you can see. And if you pivot the vehicle around, you can see those lines kind of move as well. And I think the camera quality is good. I wouldn't say great, but it's good for sure. One big point of contention for a lot of people were these little sliders. People just really don't like sliders and touch capacitive buttons. You still have that here on the ID.4, so touch capacitive buttons on the steering wheel here, sliders as well. Then you do have sliders for your temperature control as well as things like volume on the infotainment display here. But one of the big things that they changed here in 2024 is they made these sliders illuminated. They didn't used to be that, so it was even more difficult to change the temperature, change the volume of things at night, because you kind of had to fumble around and put your finger on just random places and slide around and see what happens. Whereas now you'll be able to see those better at night. See if I can get CarPlay connected here. It is wireless CarPlay, which is nice because you do have a wireless charging pad, so you can just slide that in there. I mean, it looks awesome on this screen. All the app icons are big, easy to see, pretty smooth responsiveness as well. So I do think they've made improvements to the screen. It's hard to speak kind of to the longevity of it, but from my first impressions here between this and the 2023 ID.4, I think this is definitely a worthwhile upgrade as far as performance goes. Again, the look, I think 2023 wins. Performance, I think 2024 wins. And I think in the grand scheme of things, performance is going to trump looks most of the time. The ID.4 also comes standard with a ton of excellent safety features. They're IQ Drive safety features. So you have travel assist with assisted lane change, adaptive cruise control with stop and go, lane assist, emergency assist, front assist, emergency braking with pedestrian and cyclist monitoring, active side alert, and rear traffic alert. You also have light assist, which is high beam control, dynamic road sign displays, predictive adaptive cruise control, park distance controllers, park assist with memory parking, and of course your rear view camera system. Let's go ahead and hop in the back seats. All right, hopping back here to the second row seats. Again, super comfortable seats for sure. No complaints there at all. You've got great leg room here. You've got pockets here at the bottom, then you got a little phone pocket here at the top as well. Handles, hooks, everything back here you need. 2 USB-C ports. You got rear vents as well. Door materials, sort of similar, but this is more of a hard touch plastic more than a soft touch material. But you still have that cloth on the door panels, and then you still have gloss black plastic all over the door handle area here for better or worse. But that's pretty much everything back here. It's pretty simple back here. You do have some LED dome lights up top here as well. Headroom is good. The roof slopes up here to give you a little bit extra. Again, shoulder room's good. Leg room is excellent back here. No issues there. And you do ride nice and high. I think you can fit 3 kids back here, no problem. 2 adults are gonna be super comfortable. 3 adults you definitely could, but it's gonna start to get a little bit cramped in the shoulder room area, but you could definitely do it. One other thing I really like about the ID.4 are these kind of electronic door handles. So they're not a physical door handle where they're pulling the whole mechanism to open the door. It's just kind of a little, barely moves at all, and it electronically opens the door. You can go ahead and hop out. Now, one of my favorite things about the ID.4, similar to my Tesla, is you don't actually have to use the push to start button. Tesla doesn't even have a push to start button. But on the ID.4, you just get in, close the door. It detects the weight of you in the seat. You just push the brake pedal, the vehicle turns on, and you can just go. Easy as that. So let's go take her for a little test drive. I've driven it a little bit, but I'm kind of want to get a little bit more detailed impression of the updated performance, because that was another thing along with the screen performance. That was one of the preventative factors of me picking an ID.4, was I just didn't think they were that fun to drive. Now, the dual motor ones were always more fun to drive. The increase in motor performance and the added horsepower make a big difference and make this thing a lot more fun to drive. So let's go ahead and put this thing into sport mode here. Let's get a little acceleration test. Just gonna come to a complete stop here and pedal down. Oof. Yeah. And I kind of like eased off and feathered that a little bit because there was like a lot of traffic coming, but that'll go. That 330 horsepower, it'll get you there. Let's do it again here. Just that a little roll. So it's definitely super, super punchy. I want to be fair to it because this is a larger SUV, so it's going to require a little more power to get going. It feels very punchy, it feels very strong, but it loses a little bit of that oomph as you get to those higher speeds, and we'll really test it when we get up to the highway here. It's got a lot of punch right off the line, and it goes and goes and goes, and then it just kind of tapers off. But you know what? What matters is getting you up to speed, and we'll see how well it does passing here when we get onto the highway. But now that we are just kind of cruising city streets, I expect all of these numbers to be very low, but we'll go ahead and get a dB test here. We're right around 59 dBs at city speeds. I'd expect for it to be basically silent at idle, right? But you can definitely feel the power, just even cruising around city streets. Like, you pull out of a stoplight, you just hit it and you go. Like, there's no delay, there's no hesitation, it just straight punches right off of any line. And as you need that extra power, you know, you go around a bend and you push it into the next straightaway, no issues there. It feels really good. One thing I mentioned a little bit earlier though is that you have these buttons here on the steering wheel. The 3 different cruise control options are travel assist, like I mentioned, which is your semi-autonomous driving system, adaptive cruise control, which has stop and go, and then just standard cruise control, which only maintains your speed. It's not going to keep you away from the car in front of you. Those are pretty self-explanatory. We can get a dB at idle here. We're at about 40, 41 dBs at idle. It said that the comp for that would be an insect, if that gives you an idea of how quiet it is. But we'll go ahead and stick with travel assist. And let's go ahead and set it. Travel assist ready, and we'll set it at 45 miles an hour. And we are at a stoplight right now, so we'll see how it does once we get out of the stoplight. All right, so the light just turned green. Let's see if we go ahead and get going. No, we're not. Okay, that's interesting. All right, travel assist is on, maybe because we were coming out of a stop. But this should, as you can see the steering wheel kind of turning here, this should keep me in the center of the lane. There's a big curve up here. I'm interested to see how much of a curve it'll take me around. I doubt very much, but we'll see. You have to keep your hands on the wheels. This is like a high level 1, low level 2 kind of deal. But I can definitely feel it turning the wheel back and forth, and it's keeping me pretty far away from this car in front of me. The more I turn the gap adjust up, slower I go here, but we'll leave it at the closest here. See how well it does in this curve. I had to take over there. It was not taking me all the way there, and I was getting close to that car in front of me. It'll take a little bit of a curve on the highway, but not anything significant like that. But that's okay. It's not supposed to be able to do that. I was just pushing it to see. But while we're heading to the highway here, let's talk about a couple things that I like and a couple things that I don't like about the ID.4, even with the updates here in 2024. First and foremost, something that I like is I really, really like that they added extra horsepower. That makes such a big difference. It fixes some of the largest problems with the ID.4. It just felt underpowered in some cases. I do want to check out a rear-wheel drive also and see if I can notice a little bit of a boost there as well. Really like the increased horsepower. I love that. Really like the fixes that they made with this screen. Again, it's not my favorite with the updated graphics package. I don't love that as much, but I really, really appreciate what they did as far as making some significant improvements to performance. That was much, much needed, and they did it, which I really appreciate. And third and finally, I just have to say, overall, I love the look of the ID.4. That was never something that held me back. I think it's got a really attractive design. I like the simplicity of it while still maintaining some unique accents and a unique look overall. So I'm a big fan of the look of the ID.4 for sure. Now, some of the things that I don't like as much. I think first and foremost, this screen. This screen has always been kind of a sticking point for me. Don't know if I even like that they moved the gear shift off of it. I think that just means it's a little bit more cluttered. So that's not my favorite. And I just don't understand the need for like a little 5-inch driver information screen. I'd rather just not have one at all. Obviously, I have a Tesla. So that doesn't bother me. I'm used to that. I'd rather just not have one at all or have it be much, much larger and be kind of connected to this screen over here so that you can see more vehicle information, more customizable, all that kind of stuff. This one is very small. It moves with the steering wheel, which I really don't like because if you want the steering wheel low, it cuts the top of the screen off, and I don't understand that at all. And it's just not very customizable. You have like 2 different views you can do. There's way too much information on it. It's just not good. It's just not good in my opinion. Completely my opinion, not great. Let's get some acceleration here on the highway. She's flying all right. There's not a ton of punch at highway speeds, but you still have great acceleration. Turn back on, travel assist here. get a highway dB test real quick. We're about 68 dB on the highway. Decently quiet. Not a ton of tire noise. You do get a decent amount of wind noise. It's still pretty quiet, all things considered, as the dB test just showed. I think the second thing that isn't my favorite about the ID.4, and this has some pros and cons, but the price tag's still kind of high, in my opinion. You know, this is a large SUV, larger SUV. $50,000 before the tax credit, you know, around $43,000, $42,005. Afterwards, I just don't know if that's super competitive right now. Although the lease deals that you can get on the ID.4 are pretty incredible right now. So definitely check your local dealership for those. I know that they were offering me somewhere in like mid to high 200 range for a lease on one of these things. So that's going to be really hard to beat. So definitely check around for the best possible lease deals. But I know that Volkswagen's offering a lot and your local dealership might be comping it even more. So definitely check for that. And honestly, if you want to spend a little bit less money, look at a 2023. They're going to be liquidating that inventory. And if you want to get a dual motor one of those that still has a decent amount of power, but just has the worst performing infotainment center, might be worth checking out a 2023. But I do think the 2024 improvements are worth it. And then finally, I think just my last thing is what I already mentioned, is that I just don't like the graphics package on this infotainment system. But with that being said, I think the trade-off is worth it. I think a worse graphics package in exchange for better performance, whether those were necessary or not, I think is worth it, because it does seem to perform a lot better than the previous model did. Thumbs up to Volkswagen for that. So I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I had a list of EVs that I was considering, and the ID.4 was definitely on it. I had the Tesla Model 3 and Y, the Chevy Equinox EV, the Hyundai Ioniq 5 and Ioniq 6, the ID.4, a lot of good EV options out there right now. And I pretty quickly eliminated the ID.4 from my list, and I've talked about a few of the reasons why. Performance wasn't that great. I thought the price was too high for what you were getting. I thought there were better deals out there with more performance and better technology. I thought the infotainment screen didn't work well enough to justify the price, and that's a huge sticking point of an EV, is how well the infotainment system works. I didn't like the little gauge cluster back here, and I just felt like I would have to pay too much money to get some of the things that I wanted in an EV, that the ID.4 just wasn't worth it in my opinion. Now, has Volkswagen addressed all of those issues and made the ID.4 a contender again in my opinion? I think yes. I think the increased performance makes a massive difference, and even on this kind of middle tier Pro with that all-wheel drive with the dual motor, it's really freaking fun to drive, and you just couldn't always say that. The infotainment center, like I've said, although they messed up the graphics in my opinion, I still think the performance makes it a viable option now, whereas I just don't think it was before. And some of the added things like the illuminated sliders and things like that, those are going to make a lot of people that had little nitpicky complaints feel a lot better about getting an ID.4. They did not get rid of the little driver information cluster or change it in any way. In fact, I think they probably made it a little bit worse. It is what it is. So should you put the ID.4 on your list? I definitely think so. With lease deals as good as they are, with purchase price deals as good as they are, with the tax incentives still applying, I really think that the ID.4 is a viable and competitive option. And clearly Volkswagen is listening to the complaints that people have, because they're changing things that most manufacturers would take quite a long time to change, and they're doing it pretty quickly. So I think they care about what the customers have to say, and I think you have to appreciate that in a car company, because they're not all like that. But I'm definitely going to be making a review once we get a higher trimmed Pro S or Pro S Plus and talk about some of the differences there, because again, this one's a little bit less optioned than you might prefer with the cloth seats and the lack of power liftgate and things. But nonetheless, I still think you get a ton of nice features on this model at that $50,000 price tag. I also wanted to see how well this like parking assistant thing did. So let's see here. So it found me a spot here. Go ahead and stop. Press start. Release the brake pedal. Got like a little loading bar on it. I don't know. Okay. That was just its progress on that portion, I guess. Yeah, it's almost like a loading bar. That was aggressive stuff. Yikes. Let me take you outside on this little guy and you can see how we did. Holy yikes. Wow. I'm gonna give it one more chance here. I'm really scared to do this because of how bad that was, but I'm gonna give it a spot between two cars so it has like a better distance, you know, of what it can actually do here. So let's try it here. It's not like seeing these for some reason. This is the problem I have with Volkswagen's Park Assist most of the time. There's 8 open spots right here and it just doesn't show up on the display. It's like, what's the point? For example, like on my Tesla, which has auto park, I'll show you a clip on screen. It shows every single spot as a spot you can park in, and you just click it and it just does it. There's none of this kind of like slow roll until you see a spot and then hope it pops up on the screen. I mean, it's just doing nothing. Oh, and now it sees that spot. Okay. So it just finally saw this one. So let's just go ahead and hit start again and see how it does. Again, I tried to get close to those cars, but it won't let me park next to them for some reason. This is almost the same exact scenario as over there. Maybe we just had a bad one-off. This one already seems like it's doing a little bit better. Okay, well, at least I mean, we're still like extremely close to the line, but I mean, it's the distance, man. Yeah, that's just not gonna work. I wouldn't recommend it right now. This is the exact same spot. That is Park Assist. So thanks so much for watching, guys. Drop a like on the video if you loved it. Let me know down in the comments, what do you think about this updated 2024 Volkswagen ID.4? Is it on your list? Let's have a conversation down in the comments. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button to be among the first to see every single new video the second I hit publish. We'll see you in the next one.